Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Good Friday edition of The Pulse. We're coming to you live from our studios at Kokomlemle here in Accra. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125. This afternoon, we'll delve into the dynamic role of the church in nation building as Christians around the world observe Good Friday with church services commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Stay as we engage some clergymen. Also in this bulletin, the Ghana Police Service encourages passengers to remain vigilant and speak up against suspicious activities to prevent road accidents this festive season. We'll be speaking to the National Road Safety Authority, which has deployed personnel across the country to ensure strict adherence to road safety regulations. And over 70% of power outages to homes this year have been as a result of maintenance work. Well, that's the explanation provided by the ECG to queries from the sector regulator, PULC. We'll break down the numbers here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Community Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. I am Faustina Safo. Take a seat, be my guest. Thanks for choosing us for your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. We start with the Electricity Company of Ghana because they've made more than 100 power outage announcements in the first 2.5 months of this year. Majority of it, they say, is due to maintenance works. This is contained in the ECG's response to the Public Utility Regulatory Commission following the regulator's demand for ECG's publications, informing the general public of the power outages this year. Now, the response is the only out of 3 queries which the power distributor was required to provide answers to by the end of the 27th of March 2024. Well, Isaac Kofi is our in-house data analyst who joins me to break down the figure. Kofi, you have been reading the ECG's response to PULC. Break down the figures for us.
So firstly, this is what we know as a result of what the ECG actually reported to the PULC. So we understand that there were 8 orders from the PULC to the ECG. 3 of them were direct inquiries or direct, demands for certain things. And we understand that out of the 3 queries that the PULC demanded, ECG was only able to comply with 1 of them, which is telling them the various number of times that they've actually issued, power outage notifications. And according to what the ECG reported to the PULC, when we analyze the data further, we were able to count 104 notifications, and then what the ECG actually published. But if you do a more in-depth analysis of the 104, you realize that there were repetitions in what the ECG reported to the PULC, and that will bring the number down to 49. But out of the 104 that the ECG reported to the PULC, you have about 73% of them, just like you said, being as a result of planned or scheduled maintenance work causing the power outages.
Well, we know that key among the PULC demands is the fact that they wanted ECG to publish a load shedding timetable, which they failed to do.
Yeah, they have actually failed. If you look at all the 8 orders, the provision of a timetable for load shedding is one that the PULC tagged as not complied with. It simply means that what they requested from the ECG, they did not comply with. And so they are saying that they've looked at the situation and they feel that based on this, some sanctions probably will apply.
So let's listen to Dr. Eric Obute.
That take, now that you have it, you've told us that you don't have 2 of them being complied with. Will the process kicking immediately for review and possibly imposition of sanctions? And how long will this take?
Well, we've transmitted whatever it is we have to the commissioners. I cannot give a deadline or time to the commissioners. So if the commissioners come out and tell us that by this time we are doing A, B, C, D, I'm more than willing to come out and communicate that to the public.
Safe to say that you're happy with the remainder of the directives and the ECG's compliance with those?
Well, there's another level of compliance. They're supposed to comply with the rest of the orders by April 2nd. That's next week, Tuesday. So we are waiting to see if maybe some other things in terms of the timetable will be added to those ones which will be brought in by April 2nd. Until then, this is what we have, and this is what we are working with.
We also know that there are still challenges with GRIDCO. I mean, this is a separate question to you as a regulator for the sector, because in the last 48 hours, there have been 2 notices from the ECG, all referencing a shortfall in supply triggered by GRIDCO challenges. Is the PRC looking into that too?
Once PRC has information to that effect, and we have engineers who work on this all the time, we take it up and we follow it through. But if we don't have any information to that effect, obviously, we only do our routine monitoring exercises.
In the case of ECG, you wrote to them to supply the information because you knew that customers were complaining.
Yes, we knew customers were complaining, and at the same time, we got information from ECG that it is as a result of 630 transformers that they were injecting into the system. So we said, give us information on that.
Proactively, would you reach out to the GRIDCO to find out what's happening from their end? Because they're also part of this value chain. If they can't supply, ECG can distribute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That once we have this information now, that this is the situation, we are going to rope in GRIDCO as well and talk to GRIDCO and see exactly what is going on at the GRIDCO end.
Interesting, Kofi. So at the heart of all this, between the ECG and the PURC, is money that we need to keep our lights on. And I'm sure we made reservations, for all this. So how did we get here in the first place?
Just like you said, and then you listened to the governor of the central bank, who said that the 600 million IMF money, the second tranche that came in, more than half, in fact, more than 400 million of that money was used to pay energy sector debts arrears. So if we pay that huge sums of money to energy sector players, why are we still in this situation? But we are trying to make sense of the situation. So we've been digging and we've been able to find data and information provided by the Ghana Energy Commission. They did some projections for this year, 2024. And according to them, we will need more than $1 billion to buy fuel alone in 2024. And they say that the country currently has a dependable capacity in 2024 is peaked at 4,756 megawatts. And according to them, the demand load or the demand peak will be around 3,788. However, Fosti, the Energy Commission says that factoring in planned scheduled maintenance, which we've seen the ECG talk about, and then also fuel supply situations and available dependable capacity could dwindle this year by more than 360 megawatts. So that's very significant. Almost half of Kumasi probably might go off if you are quantifying it that way. And so you need more than $1 billion to buy fuel alone. And then also you have the shortfalls in terms of the fuel causing your dependable capacity to reduce by 356. Another question has to do with, the fact that ECG, everybody's pointing fingers at ECG, but ECG generates the power we use in dollars, and they collect the revenue in cedis. So there's always a shortfall. Who is actually funding that shortfall? That's a big question there.
But then, isn't that the reason why I recall the ECG increased tariffs not too long ago? They raised concerns about operational costs. And that's the purpose we're paying more for electricity.
Absolutely. And anytime ECG, they raise tariffs, they peg the dollar to the CD at a certain rate. So if my memory serves me right, the last time they wrote to the PRC to do tariff adjustment, they pegged the dollar, I think somewhere roughly about 11 cedis. Now we are talking about 14 cedis, 13 cedis. Who is going to pay for the shortfall? The remainder. So ECG, I think that they are doing all they can to generate more revenue. But the more they generate the revenue, the more the fluctuations in the exchange rate situation affect them, to the extent that they were supposed to pay $46 million to the IPPs. This time around, they could not pay. They paid a little above 10 million, leaving a big deficit. Why? It's because of the way the CD or the dollar is misbehaving in our economic space. And so ECG finds themselves in a very difficult situation where they do almost everything in dollars, but they generate majority of their revenue in cedis. And they always have to convert to pay. And so 4 players are at stake here. There's ECG, there's Gridco, there's the government, whether you want to call in the finance ministry or the Bank of Ghana, and then there's also the independent power producers.
Clearly, all these actors would need to appear before Parliament, and we'll get into that because the chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament has already raised this issue. He said that he invited the energy minister, but unfortunately, he was not available at the time. It is something they'll get into it. But if you're spending Good Friday in the eastern region and parts of Accra, I want you to know that you might be spending it in darkness. Now, the ECG today, Kofi, brought out what they call some sort of schedule.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of disparities, but we'll get into that. On your screens now is that statement from the ECG. They say the Electricity Company of Ghana Eastern Region wishes to inform the general public, especially its cherished customers, are we that cherished? In the underlisted areas, that the outage being experienced is as a result of technical challenges. Mark that, Kofi. Affected areas, Odan Community 6, Kopun Sawmill, Akim Swedro, Edriasa, Achiasi, Aprade, Akenkenso, and Osrase, and surrounding communities. The ECG wishes to assure affected customers that our engineers are working assiduously to rectify the challenge and restore supply. Also in the Greater Accra region, they've also come up with some sort of schedule. And this is quite worrying because, Kofi, just yesterday, a member of the Mines Committee and also the minority, they've been pushing that hospitals should be exempted from this outage.
Already, ECG is chasing 91 health facilities for them to pay a debt stock of 260 million Ghana cedis.
Interesting.
And they are revenue hungry. So, firstly, they will not spare anybody. If you owe, you need to pay the ECG. And just like you said, not just Eastern region, when you come to the Greater Accra region, there are areas that will be affected.
Yeah, and that will be coming on your screen shortly.
The Okanshi Market is one of them.
Yes, Rawlings Park. And shockingly, the Children's Hospital.
And what makes this a shocking situation is that before this communique, we saw that there was another one from the ECG that they sought to say that, do not worry, we have a stable national grid.
And that will be coming on your screen shortly.
Right after that.
It's quite shocking that the ECG comes to assure us everything is under control.
Yes,
and then you tell us that in key areas, especially my concern is the Children's Hospital, not having power tonight. I'm sure we'll be visiting the place. We'll join you. So we'll give you details as to how operation goes because the GMA is concerned about it. They're saying it's affecting operations. And
you know, the ECG formally was demanding that if you are a health facility and you are owing them, pay at least 70% of that money or get disconnected. And we've seen the GMA coming in to say that, look, ECG, we know the hospitals are owing you. They owe you more than 260 million Ghana cedis. In some cases, hospitals like Ridge, Komfo-Anokye, and even Korle Bu owe the ECG more than 10 million Ghana cedis. We know they owe you, but there's a challenge. The challenge is that the hospitals we are talking about used to get their electricity bills paid by the government. Then in the middle of last year, you have the government coming in to say that, look, generate more revenue to pay your own bills. And they got that memo in the middle of the year. And most of them had not factored in power bills into their cost functions. And so they were thrown out of gear and they had to find ways and means. So definitely you end up piling debt, and they started racking debt very quickly, adding up to their legacy debt and all of that.
Is that the reason why there were issues at Korle Bu initially with the renal unit?
Yes, the power absolutely is one of them because Korle Bu is generating more. I mean, when we looked at the 2024 budget, in the year 2023, Korle Bu and then CAT raised more than 80 million Ghana cedis. Kolebu, I think, raised more than 100 million Ghana cedis, which many have said that they should be able to pay their bills and even buy consumables. But another lacuna here. Kolebu raises the revenue in cedis. And the consumables that we are talking about, most of them are in dollars. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of work. When you do the conversion, you see that there's a lot of shortfall for you to follow.
Isn't that where the Bank of Ghana comes in?
The Bank of Ghana, the Finance Ministry, and before even that, the GMA says that ECG, if you do not reduce your threshold, your minimum threshold from the 70 to 50, it's going to be difficult for the hospitals to actually foot this bill. But the reason why we need to bring in the Ministry of Finance is because of a certain mechanism called the cash waterfall mechanism, where it includes the energy sector players and even the Finance Ministry. And they say that the revenue that ECG will generate within a certain period of time, they must share it in a certain way in terms of weight to the independent power producers and other power players, including even Gridco and Valco. And so when it happens like that, because ECG collects the revenue in cedis and then also pays some of the debt in dollars, you see that there's always a shortfall. And the reason why the Finance Ministry is on the cash waterfall mechanism is that when there's a shortfall, they must come in to foot the bill, or what they call the top-up. And since August 2023, the Finance Ministry has not been doing the top-up responsibility that they've been assigned to. They are supposed to pay $200 million, 200 million Ghana cedis to the ECG, and since August, they've not complied with that.
Well, the chairman of the Parliament's Mines and Energy Committee, Samuel Tachan, is not pleased with what is going on. He has described the posture of the energy minister as unfortunate. Let's listen to him. We'll be back.
It's very unfortunate that we need to be harassed by, if you like, matters that we've not interrogated. But that's how I see it. And I agree with Rankin that there was necessity for ECG and the rest of them to come before the committee for us to interrogate and tell to everybody where is the problem. Because whatever you say, which is going to solve the problem, what we need to do is that what you have to do, if we are responsible, you need to do it. And then we get out of this mess. But what we had, and I'm very, very honest with some matters, that when we wanted ECG and the rest of them to congregate so we interrogate the matter, we had an intervention from the minister that is out of the jurisdiction. But in such a very important interrogation, he wants to be seated. That's how come we never got around to interrogate the matter. But it is imperative that if you have a challenge, whether it's a matter of generation deficit or a financial challenge, let the people of Ghana know that there's this challenge and this is the timetable. So people will plan around the challenge you are facing. To make it like it's a fetish that we don't know whether today I'll have power in my area or I won't have power, how people iron their clothes to get to work and the rest of it, and all the challenges. I don't think that's the way to go. It's unprofessional and too messy for comfort. So I think I will liaise with Rankin, and I'm tempted to believe that the minister is in the realm. We need to, although we are on holiday, we need to, get the members back for us to congregate, and they will be able to go into these matters. But for Christ's sake, whatever the blame is, the people of Ghana are entitled to know that this is a credible timetable. So even how you put your food in the fridge, you plan it. It's very, very important. And we shouldn't be given a shabby treatment.
And you're speaking the language of the customers who have been complaining that this timetable is needed. However, the energy minister was asked the same question. There are calls for timetable. He didn't think that was a call that was legitimate.
Oh, I didn't get a full story from him. Why is it not legitimate? You providing a service. The service is erratic. People live around the service you provide. Today, I'm unable to provide a service, but you can be sure tomorrow half the day I'll do it. Yes, that is unfortunate because we need a timetable. Today, electricity generation has no party colors. I want to stress that. Because at the end of the day, if we're an MPP, you consume electricity. If we're NDC, you consume electricity. So it's only professional to say we are having challenges. But because of the hard fact that we don't want to inconvenience you unduly, this is the plan. You can enjoy electricity at this time. People will plan around what you make available. People will know whether we should iron our clothes ahead of time, when you should cook and put in the fridge and the rest of it. So no matter the permutation, I'm of the humble view that we need a timetable until the situation will normalize. They take off the timetable.
Interesting. He says it's unprofessional.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's only professional that when you are in a situation and you find difficulties, you make it clear to people that A is wrong, B is what we have at the moment. We will rectify it very soon.
But we know some factories would be affected by this power cuts, especially the Tema enclave. Tell us more about it.
In fact, if you look at one area that has been affected by this recent power fluctuations is the Greater Accra region, specifically the Accra areas and Tema.
Okay.
It was yesterday ECG issued two statements or two partial timetables because they didn't come with a time.
Okay.
And you can count 69 areas in Tema that were going to be affected by yesterday's output, released by the ECG. Tema, we say Tema Area 1. There were 32 areas that are going to be affected. Key among them is the Afienya and then Christian International School. The entire Pram township got affected yesterday. Dowenya was affected and others. Now, if you look at the next one, which is where majority of the industries are, 37 areas or places that we counted in what the ECG put out. Majority of them are all in the industrial areas. Japan Motors, Unilever, Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority, their terminals 1 and 2 were all affected yesterday. And we know the inconvenience that will create in clearing of goods. Tema Oil Refinery Pumping Station, this is very important. Was also affected, yesterday. So the list goes on and on and on. There's Dangote Cement, Jata Cement affected yesterday.
Cocoa Board Warehouse.
Cocoa Board Warehouse.
That's massive.
Exactly, because, this comes at a time when already we do not even have cocoa beans. So if we have less than we are storing and power, fluctuations and all of that, it could affect the cocoa beans or the health. When you send it to the international markets, you may not get the right price and all of that. So you could see that the ECGs, or let me not even say the ECG, the unreliable power supply we are facing currently is affecting every corner of the society and every piece of our economy.
And the actors of the game, Kofi, they're playing the blame game. ECG says it's Gridco. Gridco is silent. Now, PURC is blaming the ECG. This cycle, and yet we still don't have power.
That's a very good analogy. In fact, if you look at the response that ECG gave to the PRC, we've been analyzing it and trying to see who is ECG giving us the reason. And we realized that the last 5 or 6 power outage that we have, ECG has blamed more than 50% on Gridco.
Interesting. But then they're also coming to tell us today that everything is fine. It will be coming up on your screen shortly, a statement from ECG where they're telling us that, don't worry, you won't have lights at the Children's Hospital, but we have everything under control. And this is conflicting. Kofi, this is coming out today, Friday, 29th of March, where the ECG is saying, let me read the statement. Right. The Electricity Company of Ghana wishes to inform our cherished customers and the general public that we have stable national power supply.
Keyword is stable.
The keyword is stable. And they put that also, stable national grid. So in a bracket, so that you know that everything is under control. And they say any customer who is currently experiencing power outage is due to a localized fault. And they give you contacts there which you could call so that you could get it fixed according to them immediately. But then you give us a schedule and you tell us that Children's Hospital would not be getting power tonight. So what is going on, really?
So it simply goes back to negate PRC ECG statement that there's a stable national grid. Because if there are areas, and even yesterday, key industrial areas in Tema were affected, and they tell us today that our national grid is stable. The word stable, I mean, people can play around it. But the fact that there are areas that are scheduled to go off, even if there are certain situations where you are not part of the schedule, but you will still go off. There are areas that goes off without being part of the schedule. That goes back to negate ECG's statement that the national grid is stable. But I do not blame ECG alone. I always say that we need to tackle this issue with all the other stakeholders. ECG is involved, Gridco is involved, Finance Ministry is involved, IPPs are also involved. In fact, the Finance Ministry is a very important player here because if they fail to fund the top-up, it means that ECG will keep on owing the state-owned enterprises who provide ECG power.
Kofi, the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, they have invited all the actors. They said they initially when they did that, none of them showed up. So we're hoping this time that the chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee would ensure the actors come to bear and account for what is going on. Until then, we'd have to sleep without lights.
Well, of course, I mean, if you start playing blame game, nobody wants to show up to take the final shot. So they will all be doing hide and seek until we try to tackle the problem head on and try and find out where exactly. Is it generational situation? Is it fuel? Is it whatever? Is it that we do not have at all? Is it that we need to shed a certain amount because of fault, maintenance work, or whatever? We need to be clear with ourselves. And the fact that we release a timetable, well, I mean, I understand that there's a political element attached to it, so nobody wants to put out anything for it to look like Doomsaw is back. So we all live with it.
Thank you so much, Isaac Kofi J, data analyst and member of our research desk here at Joy News. Now, what is the role of the church in nation building? This is a crucial question that we'll seek answers to today on the pulse as Christians in Ghana observe Good Friday with church services. Some members of St. Paul's Catholic Church in Kokomlemle took to the streets to reenact the crucifixion of Jesus Christ as the world marks Good Friday. Here's a report by Jacqueline Ansuma-Yeboah.
In a spectacle that blended faith with theatrical flair, St. Paul's Catholic Church transformed the streets of Kokomlemle into a stage, recreating the emotional narrative of Jesus Christ's crucifixion. With hearts heavy, yet hopeful, parishioners donned robes of devotion, ready to embody the timeless tale of sacrifice and salvation.
The sixth station, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus.
As the procession wound its way through the heart of Kokomlemle, the air was thick with reverence.
The reenactment brings to us the sacrifice of Jesus on his journey to the cross. And so anytime we enact, we follow Jesus in the form of prayer. But some people do not even understand the English language. When they see that we are enacting, it brings to them the reality of the situation. You may be whatever, but this day should speak to you, particularly the love of God.
Reverend Father Emmanuel Gusu is a parish priest of the St. Paul's Catholic Church in Kokomlemle. For the faithful gathered, the reenactment was not just a performance, but a powerful reminder of the timeless message of love, sacrifice, and redemption that lies at the heart of Easter. Jacqueline Ansuma-Yeboah's report for Joy News.
Well, President Akufo-Addo, in his Easter message, emphasized the importance of safe driving on the roads and also encouraged the nation to remain in prayer at all times. That statement he posted on Facebook is coming up on your screens right now. We also know that the flag bearer of both the NDC and the NPP have also been sharing their Easter messages. We'll start with the NPP and also start with the president before going there. On your screens now is the president's message to the nation today. He says, on behalf of my beautiful wife, Rebecca, my children, and behalf of government, I wish all Ghanaians a happy Easter. That's his Easter message, with the hope that the bloodshed, I'm struggling to see, if you would have to bring it a bit closer to me, hope that the blood spilled on the cross will heal our land and cleanse us of all iniquity. Well, in this season, let us drive carefully on the roads and keep the nation in our prayers at all times. Well, that's the statement from the presidency as we mark Easter. And then we also have a message from the NPP, the flag bearer of the NPP, which is Baumia. And he's also been sharing his Easter message, and it's coming up on your screen as well. That's the statement from Baumia, Good Friday. It says, today marks the beginning of a momentous event on the Christian calendar, Easter. This occasion brings us a time to unite, reflect on, and appreciate the sacrifice of Jesus Christ to humanity and the values he embodies, that of mercy, love, and selflessness. Samira Baumia and I extend our fervent greetings this Easter to all Christians. May the celebration leave us with fond memories, good cheer, and glad tidings. That's the statement from the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, who is also the flag bearer for the NPP. The NDC statement is also coming up on your screen as well. This is from the flag bearer for the NDC. It says, may the love of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, always bring heavenly joy and holy desires to our hearts. Wishing you a blessed Good Friday. Happy Easter. Let's build Ghana together. And it comes with a wishing you a blessed Good Friday sticker there, just to show that both parties, key actors in our political scene, wishing us the best. Now, the big question we're asking here on the polls is that what role does the church play in advocating for social justice? Well, joining us now on Zoom is a pastor and a preacher who would help us delve into this issue, because key among the concerns among a lot of people is what role is the church playing? And so we would have to get answers from those key actors in this field. Well, Tony Dedra is joining me right now. He's a preacher, a pastor, also sharing his thoughts with me on Christmas. We'll be getting other people to join us shortly, but we'll start with him, Tony. Thank you so much for joining us here on the polls. First off, I know you have your Easter message, so I'll take that before we delve into the issues.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. So, Easter is when Jesus Christ came to die for us. The Bible says that whilst we were yet sinners, Christ came to die for us. We were not good. We were not nice people for him to die for us. And he lives as an example that we should also emulate same. We must be able to also sacrifice for our neighbors, for our friends, for our nation. So on this Easter Friday, I wish all Ghanaians a happy Easter and wants to remind everybody that Jesus came to die as sacrifice for us. And he told us that we should love our enemies. And because of that, in our relationship, in our dealings with our neighbors, with our colleagues in the office, with our friends and loved ones, love should lead us. Thank you very much.
Now, Pastor Tony, it's quite ironic that the only time we seem to hear from the church is during festivities or close to election time, where they're calling for peace. Now, this begs the question, what's actually the role of the church in advocating for social justice and human rights within the nation?
I don't think the comment you just made is correct. Because when we talk about a church is made up of individuals. And these individuals are citizens of the nation. So every Sunday, and those who go to church on Saturdays, every Saturday, every Sunday, these citizens come to church And at the church, messages are preached. And for most times, the basic lesson or the basic message that comes out is peace. Normally, teaching members how to be tolerant to each other, how to forgive each other. So, throughout the year, the church is preaching peace. The church is teaching its members how to be good citizens. So, it's not true that it's only election time or only festivities that you hear. It's during the festivities, that is when media houses go out to these churches or go out to men of God to speak. But otherwise, these men are always speaking in their churches. And if for example, in Ghana, we say 70% of us are Christians, that means that most of us go to church on Sundays. So they hear these messages when they go to church on Sundays.
Let's talk about corruption. 70% of our population are Christians, but corruption is rife. Public institutions, private institutions, individuals in their little corner. So what is happening with the message we're preaching in church? Isn't that supposed to reflect in the lives and attitudes and characters of the individuals who go to church?
Yes.
Where's the problem here?
I believe that what you are saying is correct. Like, if really all these people are going to church, then their lives must reflect what is being taught in church. But I think one thing you must not forget is that the church is not made up of angels. The church is made up of sinners who have gone to church for redemption. So all these, when the Bible says that, and be ye not conformed to this world, and be ye transformed. So as people come to church, they are being transformed. It is like going to the hospital and saying, why are so many people sick in the hospital? But of course, it's sick people who go to church. Jesus said, I didn't come to save the righteous. I came to save the unrighteous. So it is work ongoing. And every day as these people come to church and they allow the Holy Spirit to work in their lives, we'll see them being transformed. And that will also be seen in the things they do out there.
There are key issues currently in governance. Key among them is the erratic power supply. You're a pastor. I'm sure you've been experiencing some outages in your church. But the church is silent on this. So who should speak up then?
So you want the church to speak on everything? I think some of the churches. I remember recently I listened to a man of God who was lamenting and this and criticizing government for this. So in the churches, they speak on these things. Maybe you want the church to not come out and come and condemn, but because the church is made up of everybody, the church should also be very careful when they are coming strongly on these things. So I think the churches are measured. They are measured in these things. It's not necessary to always come out and come and criticize. But underground, you can advise, you can offer suggestions, you can offer proposals. I think that's one of the ways that the church is going around this.
But with these issues happening in the public face, it's happening in public. Why would you want to seek solutions underground?
Not necessarily. See, I'm just giving just one example. There are other issues, there are other public issues where the church comes out strongly. I'm only just saying that it's not always in everything the church must just come out strongly and criticize and condemn. There are other ways of handling this. And I think that for us to understand what is the issue, what is the challenge of ECG, and then when the church has competent people, they can advise. But it's not necessary for the church to just come out and just criticize for criticism's sake. I don't think that is how the church should do it.
As we wrap up the conversation, I want to find out from you, what do you think are some of the key things that we need as a nation to move us forward?
So as a nation, I think, one, we need to be united. Two, we need to be truthful to each other. The political parties, the opposition, both in government and opposition, we should be truthful to the people we are serving. And as citizens, I think we should all ask for accountability. I don't think there's anything wrong in asking for accountability. It's our tax. It's our taxes the government is supposed to use to take care of us. So if there's something going on which is not right, I think we should be able to talk about it. But the government should also be open enough to receive these criticisms and work on them, and not to tag the people as opposition. We want the betterment. The government is there for the welfare of the people. The government is there for the development of the nation. So any suggestion or any proposal, even criticisms that can help government to work better or can open government's eyes to some of the issues that are confronting citizens should be welcome. And I think that as a country, we should be open to such criticisms, proposals, ideas. And then I think that as individuals, we should shun corruption. As an individual, you must let integrity be at the forefront of your life. We must all, in our own small way, ban or banish corruption from our lives and from the nation.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
When your mind is corrupted, and when your mind is always thinking about corruption, you are not able to bring ideas that can help the citizens.
We're grateful, Anthony Dedra. He's a pastor. Thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, we know that the Ghana Police Service has encouraged passengers to remain vigilant and speak up against suspicious activities to prevent road accidents. This festive season, the IGP and his team has been visiting some bus terminals in Accra, Kumasi and Kwewu to ensure the safety of the citizenry this festive season. Well, the National Road Safety Authority, which has also deployed personnel across the country to ensure strict adherence to road safety regulations, has been sharing some safety tips for drivers. Here's Engineer David Osafo Adonting.
Doing is that our men are talking to drivers, we are talking to pedestrians and occupants of vehicles for them to behave within the limits of the law, particularly overspeeding, as we said. We do not want people to speed beyond the limit. We are talking to them to wear their seatbelts and not to drink and drive, at the same time to lower their speed as they traverse from the Accra corridor all the way to Nkoko in particular. We started early morning, before 6 we were here. We understand the IGP and the team also were here yesterday all the way to 10 p.m. in the night. We are sustaining those efforts, and as I speak to you now, the entire stretch is congested. Vehicles are moving at very slow pace, and it's all the way from Bunsu area to Nkoko, which means that a lot more vehicles and a lot more people are traveling today.
Away from the Easter festivities, as Muslims across the world mark the 30-day-long month of Ramadan in a season of rising temperatures in some parts of the world. Bono East Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Boateng, is admonishing fasting Muslims to increase their intake of water, particularly during the pre-dawn meals, to prevent dehydration, which can easily drain one's energy. He's been speaking with my colleague Anat Sabit.
The Muslim holy month of Ramadan is upon us again, and people across the world are fasting as well as spending much of their time contemplating and praying. Of course, the length of time a person fasts for varies depending on where in the world they live, as day length is governed by the time of year and distance one is from the equator. Before one goes on to embark on this important religious obligation, one has to first consider his or her ability to do so health-wise. Bono East Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Boateng, admonishes Muslims to first know their medical conditions before embarking on the dawn to dusk fast of Ramadan.
We all know the religious or spiritual benefits of fasting. I mean, for some of us, because of our beliefs, it's one of the cardinal things that we do as a form of worship or whatever. But sadly, it's not everybody that can do. And we know, especially some people, some pregnant women, you don't really want them to be fasted because of the state that they are in. Some people on some medications too, because of the way and the manner in which they have to take their medicine. Obviously, you don't have to fast, but you have to know the limits. I will not be able to prescribe who and what, because if based on your condition, then there is a need for you to look for or seek a medical advice. Notwithstanding, there are a lot of benefits in terms of fasting. And then when it's being done well, your concentration is even different. Health-wise, mentally, physically, and all these. But you should know yourself.
Now, even though scientific research has shown that fasting is good for your health and in terms of mental health, Ramadan fast improves mental health and depression symptoms. It is good to note that the recent change in climate, which has led to a rise in temperatures in some parts of the world, means heat-induced fluid loss from perspiration may lead to acute kidney injury, which could lead to chronic kidney diseases in some cases. As a result, Dr. Fred Admarko advises Muslims to increase their intake of water before and after breaking their fasts, as well as take intermittent showers in order to stay safe.
The weather is not friendly, but notwithstanding, it's a vow or something that you are doing. In relation to that, depending on how you do it, you know yourself. If you take maybe one bottle early before 6 or whatever, can you take 2? I mean, these are some of the things. And even in the midst of doing them, you really want to go that far, but you can. If there are other diverse ways that you can reduce, can shower. You have different forms of doing this, because at the end of the day, this is not somebody who say a chronic thing that you are doing. It's just a period, and this is a moment, a season that will pass, and therefore you want to take advantage of this season to get all the benefits that you are intended.
He, however, admonishes people who are having health challenges, particularly those going through extreme hydration, to take a break in order to take medical advice before continuing with their fasts.
It's very important, so crucial that is the baseline for which you have to know yourself. If you are diabetic, hypertensive, you have to take particular drugs at some times, and then you don't, or you have to seek medical advice to do that.
Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
We're taking a quick breather here on The Pulse with me, Faustina Sava. When we return, we'll put the spotlight on mental health issues. To stay tuned in. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, we're putting the spotlight into the crucial role of universal acceptance. We want to find out how crucial is this when it comes to internet technologies and also overcoming language barriers faced by global internet issues. Now, we're wondering why this conversation is important, because the internet is a universal place, and hence there's a need for universal language. The Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, in partnership with the Ghana Domain Name Registry, the Association of African Universities, and the E-Governance and Internet Governance Foundation for Africa, is spearheading an awareness campaign urging stakeholders to champion the integration of local language scripts into domain names. Now, let's delve deeper into this and find out what it seeks to achieve. I have 3 gentlemen in the studio with me. I'll let them introduce themselves for me because their name is quite a mouthful. I'll start with Raymond.
So I am Raymond Mamata, the founder and president of E-Governance and Internet Governance Foundation for Africa, simply called EGICFA. We are a civil society here in Ghana.
And then next to Raymond.
My name is Abdul Manaf Suleimana. I'm a UA project officer at the Association of African Universities.
And next to him?
I'm Nana Kofi Asafu-Edu, Executive Director of the Ghana Domain Name Registry. We are mainly supposed to be the stewards of the .com.gh domain names in Ghana.
Interesting. Let's get a better understanding as to why there is a need for inclusiveness when it comes to the Ghanaian domain. I'll start with you because that's your field. This agenda you are pushing, what are you seeking to achieve?
Well, the biggest aim of this agenda is, as you said rightly, inclusiveness. The internet is growing fast in our current world, and everything that we need to do has to be geared toward including as many people as possible into internet technology. Now, the more people we're able to include from our local internet, the better our local internet will be. And when you look at the recent disruptions, one of the main issues was that there was a lot of dependency on foreign internet. But if we do a lot to strengthen our local internet, include more people, then the whole nation will benefit as a whole.
How can we even strengthen our local internet in the first place? That's your field of specialty. So enlighten us.
Well, strengthening our local internet means that we should get as much local content developed. Local content means content in our local languages, content related to our culture, content that Ghana can give to the world. And when we put that on the internet, it is essential that the websites that talk about these things have a .com.gh name at the end of it. So it's from Ghana to the world. Now, the connection with universal acceptance is that sometimes we need domain names that include Ghanaian alphabet letters, like let's say the O or the E, which cannot be read or processed by systems that were developed in English. So that's where universal acceptance comes in, where we need to do our part to ensure that our letters, just like Chinese letters or Greek letters or Amharic letters from Ethiopia, are processed on the internet, no matter where they are sent. And this is in connection to domain names and email addresses in particular.
How far have we come as a country in achieving this universal coverage?
We are at the beginning, and that's why we are doing this work to do our awareness creation. This year we are going beyond awareness creation and we are doing training, technical training, because you can create all the awareness you want, but if the technical capability and know-how is not there, then the awareness will fall to nothing. So this year there's a lot of training going to take place so that our technical people can build the necessary systems. And also we have to go to the next stage of collaborating with the rest of the world to tell them about our letters. Right now on Google, Android phones, you can get Akan keyboards. You can get keyboards using different letters. But the next thing is the processing of the domain names and email addresses that are typed in those, what we call them scripts. So if you have like sankofa.com, there's an O in the word Sankofa. But then because it's not processed, you see that it will be spelled with an O. Sometimes you see people would write something and then instead of using the they'll use a 3.
Use a 3, yeah.
Yes. And you know, the 3 can be processed because it has an ASCII, what we call ASCII representation. It has a representation on computer systems. But the reverse 3 doesn't. So work has to be done in that direction.
Well, interesting. Now, because for the average Ghanaian, myself, when I'm on my phone, I'm just looking for the easy way out. But civil society is also involved in this. What's your role in this, Raymond?
Okay, so at GIGFA, we are mainly into e-governance and internet governance, and UA, Universal Acceptance, is also part of internet governance. So our role here is we are part of the entity that represents the end users in ICANN. So we've taken this upon ourselves to be part of the team to organize this year's Universal Acceptance Day in order to bring more end users into the internet, especially in Ghana, as Nana Kofi already said, to be able to use our domains that bears our own local scripts and names on the internet. So this is our role. And to add to that, Universal Acceptance is a project that flows from the awareness creation to technical training, then to adoption. So Ghana, we are also in the limelight because we've done the awareness creation last year, and this year is for the technical training. So that is what really it is about. And we are happy to be leading this in aspect of the civil society.
All this sounds quite technical, especially for some of us in this field. What's been the response so far when you go to the field?
Okay, so the response we've gotten so far is quite very interesting because after the UA that we organized last year, we've also done the universal acceptance awareness again during the IGF this year. And we've got a lot of people who showed interest, especially the youth. They are interested to know how they could engage in order to play their role in, for us to get the local script on the internet, as Nanakufi said, with regards to domain names and the emails. And simply, domain names is the address that locates the domain you want to visit online. So for instance, if you want to visit Joy FM, so you enter the joy.com. So the joy.com is the location address to locate the Joy website. So we are talking about, that's what the domain names is about. So locating to locate a domain on a website. So that is basically part of it. So it is very important for us to be engaged in this.
Let me bring in Abdul Manaf. You speak for the wider audience, the universities. What's the response so far, especially with young people in tertiary institutions? Is this even something that they require as important?
So for AAU, being the voice of higher education in Africa, last year we launched the Universal Acceptance Project with ICANN. It's estimated that less than 2% of higher education institutions in Africa are UA reliant. Despite being linguistically diverse in Africa with so many languages, we are still not UA reliant. I'll give you an example, like Tonaton, right? No free promo. You know, Tonaton. Tonaton is not T-O-T-O-N-A-T-O-N. It should be Tonaton. But because you can't use the or, you can't use the or in the browser. If you should type T-O-T-O, it will give you a field. It will give you a field. But with UA, you can easily type T-O-N-A-T-O-N, and then get to the website you want to go. So for AAU, we ran the project last year, and we've had 2 technical trainings, one in Accra, the other in Namibia. And then we are looking, there's another aspect of this that we are doing. We are looking to introduce into the curricula. So we are having a workshop in Morocco, hopefully, in April, 26th April in Morocco, with vice deans and heads of computer science to have a discussion with them how we can introduce UA into the curricula. Many young people are in the universities. If they should know how to configure systems to be UA reliant, by the time they graduate into the workforce, they'll have the experience to make all systems that are being developed UA reliant. So that's where the AAU comes in, for the academia, for the students, and to make the internet more accessible to everyone in Africa.
And this is quite important. You mentioned the need to enroll it in our curricula. There's always been a gap between the market and what we are taught in school. So it's a bigger problem. Now, how are you engaging with stakeholders in Ghana, to be precise, to have this enrolled in our curriculum? Is it something that is coming up soon?
Yes. So we had a webinar 15 February where we invited vice deans, vice chancellors into the webinar to have a preliminary discussion of how we can introduce UA into the curricula. This was not for only Ghana, but deans from other institutions in Africa. And it was well accepted. We sent forms for their feedback, and they seem very interested in introducing it into their curricula as well.
Are there timelines to this?
Yes. For AAU, we envisage that in 2025, about 200 of our institutions will be UA reliant by 2025.
And this number, how many of this number is from Ghana?
So we have about 50 institutions from Ghana.
Okay. And currently you're engaging their vice chancellors?
Yes, for the curricular aspect of it.
Okay.
With the UA readiness aspect of it, we are engaging the ICT directors.
Okay.
Maybe Legon, the ICT director, UPS, the ICT director, KNUST, the ICT director. We've had workshops with them in Accra. And then last year in July, we had it in Namibia for the South African zone, where we trained the ICT directors on how to make their systems UA reliant, UA compliant. Yes.
How safe is our domain here in Ghana?
Our domain, the .gh domain is very safe. It's in good hands, and a lot of work is also being done to put it in a better shape. And luckily, we have a very good cybersecurity authority that we work with hand in hand to ensure that the domains are safe.
How do I identify a domain that could possibly lead to hackers getting access to my phone and a proper domain? That's your field of specialty. That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, for that, I think that you should always pay attention to the browser that you're using. Most modern browsers will give you a warning. And so that's what should tell you that this domain name probably can hack your phone. Also, in fact, what ties in with universal acceptance, you know that some domain names can use other letters, which will mimic like a domain that is known to you.
Okay.
So for example, if you have a domain name that has a letter O in it, a hacker could change the letter O to 0. Okay?
Interesting.
Yes, and then we'll create what we call a phishing site. Phishing site is that it will pretend to be the site that you are familiar with, and then create a form and collect your information.
Wow.
Yes. So what you have to do is to be very observant. When they give you a domain name or you get a link or whatever, you have to study the link closely. In fact, for me, if I see any link that is almost unreadable, I don't click it. I'll send the person back and say, what is in this link? Most of the time they'll say, oh, I don't know, I'm sorry, or something like that. So I think it comes down to being alert and knowing that every single letter is important in whatever domain name or website that you want to visit.
Interested. Let me come to civil society because you're working with different bodies to ensure this comes to light. Finances are quite important. So we'll come to finances across board. How much is this project costing you?
It's a collaborative effort between the three entities with the GNL, EGICFA, and the AAU. So we are putting a budget together as a team to organize it. So actually the main UA Day that we'll be celebrating in Ghana is on the 15th of May. Okay. So we had the press briefing yesterday to launch the event. So the main one will be on the 15th of May, and the cost is quite huge, but we are sharing the costs as three entities organizing this event. However, we call on any other entities that are interested to come in and partner, because universal acceptance is not for the government only, it is not for the end users only, it is not for the technical entities only, it's for everybody. Because if you are creating an email, for instance, and you cannot use the reverse of E in it, and that is what you wanted to use, I'm sure you will not be interested or you will not be happy.
Yeah.
So everybody has a role to play in achieving this.
Interesting. I like when we talk figures, but you're avoiding the numbers. Let's see if Abdul could help us. This is going to cost you a lot. How much are you injecting into it?
So with the UA project itself, the AAU and ICANN, we have a project where ICANN is funding it. So they're relying on us to use our institution. They are funding that aspect of it. But regarding the UA Day on the 15th of May, we are joining our heads together with funds to... It's going to be held at the AAU premises, and then we will cover some part of the budget. They'll cover some part. The DDNR will cover some part. So yesterday, for instance, the DDNR oversaw the arrangements for the press briefing, and then I'm sure on 15th May, together we'll all come together and make it a successful event.
How do we ensure the interest of the youth in this whole agenda you are pushing? Because it's one thing to talk about inclusiveness. It's another thing for me to be interested in it at all. So how do you think we can do that?
For instance...
Because you deal with the students.
Last year we had it. We invited about 5 each from computer programs, like the computer groups in the universities. So from UPSA, from Legon, from Wisconsin. We invited about 5 students from these institutions who are IT students. And then we gave them souvenirs, T-shirts. I'm wearing one of it right now. T-shirts, pens. When they go back, they'll speak to their colleagues and let them know what they learned at the awareness event. But on 15th May, it will be a technical training. So when they come, they'll get to have the hands-on skills to be able to make their systems reliant.
How do I become a part of this whole agenda you're pushing? I'll start with you, Nana.
If you or anyone wants to become a part, May 15th, keep that date in your mind. AAU East Legon, keep that location in your mind. When you come, you will be enlightened on more things, and you will see the relevance, and that would encourage you to join.
Do I have to pay a gate fee, Raymond?
No, there's no gate fee in this, and it is free for everyone to come and learn. But I want to add to the engagement aspect. UA has a lot of working groups. Okay. We have the communication working group, and I'm the vice chair of the communication working group. So participating in UA has members from every continent, everywhere in the world. So we have the body, that is the UASG, Universal Acceptance Steering Group, that is managing the whole UA project. Within ICANN, that is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Name and Numbers. So if you want to engage, you can join any of the working group depending on your skills. So you being a journalist, you could possibly join our working group, which is for the communication. We have others that are for the IDN, which is the International Domain Name. We have the email identification ones too. So you can also join depending on your skills. So in the global aspect, you can visit the uasg.tech website to see how your interests and where you can play a role. Everybody has a role to play. However, in celebrating the UA Day in Ghana, everybody could have a role to play. If you are interested, you can contact any of us in how you could get engaged.
Interesting. And for the student community?
You are invited to participate in this UA Day. For instance, Legon, UPSA, AU is just like a stone throw away from there. So you're all welcome to participate on 15th of May, 2024.
What's your end goal and target?
So for this UA Day awareness and the technical training, we plan to give them technical skills on how to make systems UA compliant. But on the larger UA project, as I said, we are planning to make at least 200 AAU member institutions UA compliant. Okay. Then the second phase of the project is to ensure that universities will introduce UA into the curricula. Yes.
And Nana, what's our target? Do we have timelines to this target?
I wouldn't talk about timelines now. It's an ongoing work.
Okay.
But I think that once the universities are compliant, government entities will be compliant, business entities will be encouraged and guided to compliance, and eventually everyone or entity should be compliant, because UA without total compliance is not really UA. See, the word is universal. So universities are a good place to start, and then the work should go across.
Do you propose some sort of sanction when people fail to comply?
Not at all. I don't buy into proposing a sanction for compliance. I'd rather go for incentivization.
Okay. Yes. Why? Why do you think that's a better option? We are in Ghana.
Well, because incentivization makes the whole process more palatable. And I don't think it's a situation where sanctions are necessary at any stage at all. But I think that when people see the benefit for themselves, for their businesses, for their schools, for their institutions, it's very easy for them to actually join and engage.
I'll come around for your final words before we let you go. I'll start with Abdul Manaf.
So regarding that, I agree with Mr. Nana Kofi what he said. Organizations are supposed to embrace it because it's in their interest to be UA compliant. I give an example with the toner I usually do. If you operate in certain jurisdictions where language is a main issue there, you lose out on customers. If a customer wants to message you in Akan or Dagbani or any other language, the person may not be able to do so, and then you end up losing out on a customer.
Thank you so much. Raymond, your final words?
My final words is universal acceptance is very important, because if you are not compliant, you'll be losing out on a lot. Because if somebody is sending you an email and has those scripts that your system cannot identify, your system will reject such emails. So it is very important for all of us to test our systems and ensure that we are universal acceptance compliant in order not to lose out in the world.
Nana, your final words?
I think that I echo what they've said. I think that all organizations, entities, should make sure that they comply with universal acceptance. And as a nation, we also have to make every effort to develop our local internet to put us in a good position.
Thank you so much, Manav, Raymond, and Nana for joining us here on The Pulse. Well, stakeholders say underfunding and lack of resources are undermining the effective implementation of mental health policies. The Executive Secretary of non-governmental organization Mind Freedom Ghana, Dan Taylor, says this lack of commitment will critically affect the sustenance of the humane treatment regime for mental health conditions in Ghana. He joins stakeholders in a call for the Ministry of Finance to institute a mental health levy to resource the mental health fund. There's more in this report by Clinton Yeboah.
Ghana's Mental Health Act 2012 and the policy environment inspires direct state and non-state responsibility to protect and promote the right of persons with mental health conditions. The Act advances arbitration of violation of human rights and freedoms of persons whilst monitoring the practices and services of both formal and informal service providers. However, lack of effective implementation emanating from lack of resources is leaving facilities in dire challenge as patients relapse when unable to afford mental health treatment. Executive Secretary of Mind Freedom Ghana, Dan Taylor, says there is no roadmap for the institution of a levy or any kind of domestic resource mobilization for mental health care delivery in Ghana. He is calling for the institution of a mental health levy to resource the mental health fund.
For now, if you take a patient to Accra Psychiatric Hospital, you have to make a down payment of 500 Ghana cedis. Once there's someone with a mental health condition and the parents or the family hasn't got that money, that is why I would want to talk about the mental health fund, which has been established. But then the sources of raising money into the fund is another story altogether. You know, every worker is to pay the 10 pesos as source from their salary. So once that it's started and it's going on that well, they will go into the private sector. And when people go into the hospitals for treatment, they will maybe have to subsidize or pay nothing.
He spoke at a community awareness activity on mental health and persons with mental disorders at Adankwame in the Achimangwabioja North District. The event assembled traditional, religious and community leaders, local assembly members, students and families of persons with mental health conditions. The outreach provided education on mental health conditions and a platform of community influencers and leaders to facilitate social support. Ashanti Regional Mental Health Coordinator Faustina Nyako is lauding strides by stakeholders including Mind Freedom Ghana in curbing the seemingly rampant mental health crisis.
Now all the hospitals in Ashanti region, they are having mental health units, the health centers and even Church institutions, they are also having mental health units. And there is good collaboration with the faith healers and the hospitals. So when they have cases, they call us to take care of them or they direct them to us before they come to them. So there has really been an improvement in mental health in the region. Also, we have some individuals or private facilities who have also opened these rehab centers for people to also get an admission.
Meanwhile, Rita Ocher, Senior Nurse Officer at the Sophia Polyclinic, is advocating end to stigma, discrimination and physical abuse.
And then when we say stigmatization, we are talking about seeing someone in a negative way because of the person's mental health condition. And then discrimination is the act of treating the person in a bad way because you have perceived that that person is hopeless, helpless, and the person is not wealthy. And so we are communicating that we are all equal when you look at the human rights aspect. No individual is better than or higher than other. And so we should be able to be there for each other, give a helping hand, support each other in times of crisis, in times of difficulty, in times of distress.
Reporting for Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
And here in Accra, my name is Faustina Safa. You're watching The Pulse. We're taking a quick breather. We'll be back with more stories. Just stay tuned in. Thanks for staying with us. Now, residents along the Ofanko-Pokwase in Samoan part of Accra-Kumasi route are grappling with a dense dust cloud generated by ongoing construction in the area. The air pollution is causing a range of health problems that have alarmed health experts. It's a problem shared by communities across Ghana whenever roadworks take place. As Clean Air reporter Michael Ashale reports, committee members are urging authorities to frequently dampen the dusty road and find a solution to their predicament.
The Ofanko Pokwase in Sawam Highway has become a dust-choked battleground, here grappling with air pollution. The stretch spans more than 30 kilometers and ferries thousands of commuters daily. After enduring years of a road plagued with potholes, this road rehabilitation has become a new inconvenience for the community.
So once they started this road, the dust is worrying us too much. It worries me when I dress up to go to work and I get to work. It seems my attire or my dress will be in a dead form.
Air pollution is a growing problem across the world, especially in fast-growing cities like Accra. Pollutants from vehicle exhaust, factories, and waste burning are sickening many Ghanaians and leading to nearly 30,000 premature deaths a year, according to the World Health Organization. Air pollution is a major cause of lung diseases like asthma and pneumonia, but it also leads to blindness, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and birth defects. Roadworks here were badly needed. People had endured potholes that had made the trip difficult for years. The construction is expected to continue until December 2024. Roadworks like this are a problem across Ghana. In hot, dry months, dust kicked up blanketed communities around it, causing a range of serious health problems. Some that might be with people for life.
Over here, just in front here, we have some hairs in the nose that serve to trap particles in the air, particulate matter in the air.
Dr. Kwabena Ejenim Boatin works as a resident ear, nose and throat surgeon at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. He says dust can be so small and so overwhelming that it gets into the lungs and bloodstream.
And then it goes on into the skin in the nose over here. This reddish part that you see. It's a place that has a very big surface area to help in conditioning the air, making it warm enough for the body, and it also serves to trap some of the particles that may have escaped from here over there. Now, in its attempt to do that, that is when, by contact with some of the allergens, then this nasal cavity, as in your nose, would react and be producing the itchiness that we talked about earlier, the nasal congestion, etc.
It's no surprise many people have chosen to wear a mask. Health experts say that's good. Masks are one way to reduce inhalation of dangerous pollutants. Reducing exposure to dust is also important, especially for vulnerable groups like children, the elderly, and those with existing health problems. Fise is one of many communities along the 30-kilometer road. Elvis Gadose is a heavy-duty truck mechanic here. He says on some days, the intensity of the dust makes it difficult to work.
I've been coughing, sake of the dust. As you can see my workshop here. My workshop is near the road, and there's a whole lot of the dust. And you can't be at the roadside and be working sake of how the road is. The dust is hot, causing us a lot of tough time.
It's not just adults who are affected. Hegai Bamari is an expected mother.
That's why I always put on the mask. Because if I don't put on the mask, when I reach home now, my throat will be paining me. I have to take in some Mentos before I be up. But right now that I'm wearing the mask, I don't get that thing again. I don't have that effect again. The dust is too much. Sometimes you work
Hegai sells nose mask along the dusty road. she's not the only one made sick by the dust here. Experts say pollutants may pass to Hagar's unborn child, risking birth defects and lifelong problems. Hagar knows this, but she says she has no choice.
Always I go on for checkups because of my pregnancy. Always I go, they will be checking me, they say I'm okay. Sometimes I will be having a cold, they will give me medicine. But I can't stay in the house, I have to come back still and work. And all is because of the dust.
At a nearby pharmacy, the severity of the impact on the people here is clear.
With sore throat, cold, and then cough. Some of them complain the dust because they sit in cars, they don't wear nose mask, so the dust goes directly into them, so they come, the place is dusty and all.
Angela is a pharmacy assistant. Since the construction started, she says they have witnessed an increase in the number of dust-induced complications in the area.
For now, it's just the cough, sore throats, and the cold that we see, but then looking at a long period of time, it could lead to other complications. We tell them they drink water more and then get a nose mask if they are around the area and it's dusty.
Dr. Carlos has been monitoring the impact of air pollution on Ghana's growing population. He's the program manager of the Occupational and Environmental Health Unit at the Ghana Health Service. He says the effects of dirty air are far-reaching for many groups of Ghanaians.
We know that the children, usually are more vulnerable because their lungs are not well developed, and they stay closer to the ground where you have some of these pollutants in higher concentration. So they are more vulnerable, as well as the aged, the elderly, who are also not able to handle the effects of this air pollution, as well as the strong adults. Then also, you can talk about those who have pre-existing chronic lung diseases, chronic obstructive lung diseases. These are exacerbated when they are exposed to air pollution.
The WHO estimates that 99% of the world's population is breathing polluted air. Children and the elderly are most at risk when exposed to these pollutants. And UNICEF is concerned, especially for children in Ghana. Dr. Emmanuel Chemantin Amoa is a health specialist with UNICEF.
If you look at pregnant women, it has an impact on them, on the developing baby in the womb, or when the babies are born. They may have low birth weight, some die, children have pneumonia. So even 50% of children who die from pneumonia, it is from air pollution.
Dr. Ejenim Boati warns that these residents face an increased risk.
There are some tumors in the nose that can be attributed to the kind of air that you've been exposed to. In the throat also, once again, depending on the kind of air quality, we are dealing with periods when the air is so dry, carrying with it a lot of dust and other things. You are likely to have infectious things happening in the throat by way of these things. So within this period, for instance, that we have a lot of dusty wind blowing around, there's a greater likelihood that you have some of these, some of the particles in the air making their way as far down into your lungs. For children, sometimes because of the inflammation that's going on in the nose, this back of the nose also becomes congested. And this back of the nose connects by a certain tube here that we call auditory tube to the middle ear. And once that allows transmission of germs from that back of the nose to the middle ear and causes infections of the middle ear. Yes, so that is one of the things that children are susceptible to.
The woes of some people are far from over. The dry conditions have worsened the situation. The Clean Air Fund, Victoria Owusu-Teria, says the weather is expected to remain dry until the end of the month.
From research too, we found that
during February, we have all reached the peaks, the peak of the Harmattan. So mostly the dust levels, concentration levels are quite high in February. And then along the way, getting to the latter parts of February, it reduces.
Resident engineer on the project, Engineer Kwabena Bimpong, says they cannot be blamed for the dust pollution that has enveloped the area, although he admits they have challenges suppressing the dust.
In Harmattan, we all know that we have those issues. So to attribute it entirely to our project, I think it's a little bit, if it's not disingenuous, maybe it is stretching the issue too far. But then I acknowledge that we may also have had some, level of impact on the general environment. Before December, we didn't have any challenge. We were suppressing, dust. Dust is the major issue. We were suppressing dust with water, bowsers. But then sometime in January, we had a little bit of a challenge where a lot of our water bowsers failed us in terms of mechanical failures. And we resorted to employing the private tankers to help us, but that wasn't enough. So for about 2 weeks, we had a challenge with dust pollution. And of course, that coupled with the weather, because we are in the Harmattan season, and that really messed us up. Initially, we tried to have some other chemicals added to the water to reduce, and of course, to ensure that the water stays on the road. Unfortunately, we were not successful with those chemicals, even though they were expensive.
During our visit to the area, a water tanker was seen spraying water on the dusty road, but it doesn't do much.
So this is the main road that leads to Amasaman, Pokwase and its environs. Well, there are efforts to try and rehabilitate this road and make it more trouble. But in the interim, the dust from the area is disturbing residents a lot. At this point, I have to wear my nose mask because it's very dusty in this area. A few minutes ago, a water tanker sprinkled water on this dusty road to try and reduce the quantum of dust that comes out of this road when the drivers ply it. Now, the road is wet, but it's only been 10-15 minutes and it's already drying up.
The residents are urging authorities to consistently dampen the road throughout the construction process. Engineer Bimpom says that they are currently increasing the fleet of water tankers to improve the dust suppression measures.
We resorted to increasing the frequency as opposed to using chemicals that would ensure that the dust, is suppressed for a considerable time, and then without have to have that frequency that we envisage. So now we are increase it and increase the number of water bowsers. Now we have about 14, on the road. It used to be about 9 initially, but as a result of the challenges that we're having, we've increased it. We are continuously monitoring the air quality and when I say air quality, we are not only talking about dust, but then there are other greenhouse gases which are being monitored, emissions from our vehicles. And here I'm not talking only of our vehicles, but also generally, because when there's traffic, there's an increase in the greenhouse gases. So yes, we are looking at all of this.
This story was a collaboration with New Narratives. Funding was provided by the Clean Air Fund. The funder had no say in the content of the story. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
The Upper West Region, where the Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Damien Punguriri, has observed that the attrition rate of critical medical staff, especially medical doctors, in the Upper West Region continue to pose a major challenge to quality healthcare delivery in the Upper West Region. He reveals whilst 134 staff left the region last year, only 35 staff were posted to the region. To address the challenge, he's speaking at the annual 2023 Annual Health Sector Performance Review meeting. He appealed to the Ghana Health Service, Medical and Dental Council, as well as the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, to speed up their accreditation process to convert the Upper West Regional Hospital into a specialized training center. Joining us is Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafik Salam reports from WA.
The 2023 Annual Health Sector Review meeting of the Upper West Regional Health Directorate was held on the theme Embracing the Networks of Practice approach to improve health outcomes in the Upper West region. It brought together major stakeholders in the health sector to share their successes and challenges with a view to providing solutions to the latter. Upper West Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Damien Poiri, first laid bare the successes chalked under the year in review, which included the maternal and child health e-tracker and the electronic medical record system, which were fully deployed in all district hospitals and some clinics in the region.
This has significantly reduced operational costs and waiting times for clients accessing health services in these hospitals. Currently, if you go to any of our hospitals, you don't need to carry your folder or lab requests or anything. Even if you forget your ID card, just mention the correct name and then your information will access.
Dr. Damien Poiri then channeled figures of some selected indicators realized. Maternal deaths increased from 16 to 19.
Institutional neonatal mortality dropped from about 6 per 1,000 live births in 2022 to 5 per 1,000 live births. And still the rate declined from 11 per 1,000 births to about 7 per 1,000 births. However, the region recorded 19 maternal deaths during the year under review compared to 16 in 2022, which means that 3 more deaths were recorded. And this is something that as stakeholders we need to work assiduously to reverse.
Turning to challenges, staff attrition continues to be a major drawback in the region's quest to achieve quality healthcare delivery. In order to put a lid on it, the Upper West Regional Director of Health Services suggested for a speed up of the accreditation process to convert the Upper West Regional Hospital into a specialized training center.
During the year under review, 134 staff left the region on transfer compared to only 35 who joined us. Even though the number of medical doctors in the region keeps increasing year after year, the majority of them are currently in school for their postgraduate training, and some will be away for as long as 6 years, which implies that they are not really available for service delivery. To address this problem, I humbly appeal the Ghana Health Service, the Medical and Dental Council, and the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons to speed up the accreditation process of converting the Upper West Regional Hospital into a specialized training center. This will enable the doctors in the region to specialize while still at post.
Dean of the School of Medicine at the CK Tadem University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Professor Juventus Ziem, had similar suggestions.
This problem can easily be solved. You have a university here, and the university mandate is in business and integrated development studies. Integrated development studies cannot occur without integrating the various aspects of development, i.e. health, economics, business, agriculture. So the mandate is clear, and it is only left with us to collaborate with the university to start demand-driven programs in this region that will stop the staff from moving far away for extra learning. It is possible. We can do it.
There was a presentation of the holistic assessment report of the Upper West region, which was done by peers from Western region. 33 health staff who distinguished themselves at the national, regional, and district levels were rewarded with citations and television sets. There were also citations of appreciation for some journalists in the region for the roles played in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic and the cerebrospinal meningitis, CSM, in the region. One of them was Joy News Upper Regional correspondent, Rafik Salam. Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
And that's how we wrap up the bulletin here on the Joy News channel. This has been great. Please log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. Top stories there. Over 70% of power outages are due to planned maintenance work, and that's coming from the ECG to PURC. My name is Faustina Sapo. Have a pleasant day as you enjoy the rest of our programs.